Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right, John Hancock.
Whoa, Nelly.
On the left, what was that? On the left is Michael Kelley.
I know her too.
Oh,
Nelly.
All right. I'm Andy Banker. Enough with the shenanigans. Let's get to the agenda. 8 weeks after a new plan was announced to revitalize downtown St. Louis, it looks like a war zone. The 4th of July turns bloody as lawlessness reaches yet another new low. St. Louis Mayor Tishaura Jones endorses Cori Bush in St. Louis's heated Democrat congressional race. Does that help or hurt Bush's chances? President Biden gives his first interview after his debate debacle. He says he's absolutely staying in the race as more and more people in his own party say Joe has got to go. And our quote of the week is from a Supreme Court justice blasting the majority opinion, which holds that U.S. presidents are largely immune from criminal prosecution. Also, John and Michael will weigh in on another Missouri hot primary race, the Republican contest for Attorney General. We begin with the latest sickening scenes of chaos and violence in downtown St. Louis. The video is appalling. Young people shooting fireworks at each other near Keener Plaza with no fear of being arrested after St. Louis's spectacular fireworks show over the Gateway Arch. Downtown visitors report running for safety with fireballs passing right over their heads, right by their faces. A man says he had to hide in a building with his family until some of that chaos died down. A couple of hours later, gunfire broke out. 7 people were shot, all survived. This comes less than 2 months after the mayor joined downtown advocates to announce a new plan to revitalize downtown St. Louis. She blames the accessibility of guns, but not a lack of police. John, there's no word on any arrests for the shootings or the dangerous use of fireworks.
Well, I mean, it's just embarrassing at this point. What a catastrophe. You know, I'll tell you, they're looking for places to cut the budget in the city. And let me suggest maybe they cut the tourism budget because nobody's coming down here. And when you have these kinds of displays, the fireworks night on the 4th of July was an event that used to draw 1 million people to the Arch grounds. You're not going to get 1 million people down there anymore. And until this gets fixed, this city is, the future is so bleak. And it looks like the leaders have a blind eye to all this stuff. They're explaining it away. And 7 people get shot on a night where, and you know, clearly there's not enough police down there to watch what's happening. And now you got the gunfire roaming up and down the streets. There were video upon video upon video. This is a catastrophe.
The mayor and the police chief point out that, well, you just had a few bad actors after what was a great night downtown.
Well, that's kind of the chorus we've been hearing from the mayor since she's gotten elected and the police chief since he started talking. This is a city that's dying. This is what it looks like. This is a spiral, and it's going to continue. And to continue to gaslight ourselves and say that this isn't a problem, that we don't need more police, to be told that things are getting better, is not going to fix this problem. There's no doubt about it. The mayor points out that guns and the easy accessibility of guns, yes, a huge problem, something that needs to be dealt with in Jefferson City and the state needs to take care of. But this was July 4th. It wasn't a surprise that there were going to be people coming downtown. In fact, they invited them downtown to do it. And you can't be safe? I'm sorry. There's no excuse for this, and there's no talking it away.
Well, the mayor and chief both frequently said we can't police ourselves out of this mess. Well, can't you?
Yeah.
I mean wouldn't it work actually?
Yeah,
Maybe
because now we've got somebody in the prosecutor's office that will actually put people in jail. But you got to have the people caught in order to put them in jail. There's over 1,000 homicides in this city that are unsolved. Think about that for a minute. Which means there's 1,000 people that kill, or some number, some maybe have killed 3 or 4 people, but there's hundreds of people in this city who have committed murder that are running around on the streets.
These videos went on for 20 minutes straight, Andy. People were calling 911, letting the police know. Guess what? I have friends who live down there. There's no police to be seen. And by the way, it's being accepted by those who live downtown and who are downtown that this is a normal practice of life.
Well, the state of Missouri is pulling out of downtown St. Louis, putting 2 buildings up for sale. About 600 jobs are moving out. The governor says downtown violence is not the reason, sort of.
I don't think that's the reason we're moving down there, but, you know, we got to understand that we're aware of that. the employees up there are aware of that. Look, St. Louis has got to deal with the crime situation, and it's got to get better, for people to want to come in there and to stay.
The historic Wainwright Building, which is known as the first skyscraper, is one of the 2 buildings being sold. It reportedly needs more than $20 million in renovations. The mayor's chief of staff says the news came without warning at City Hall. He's hopeful most of the jobs will be moving to other state buildings within the city limits, the city of St. Louis. Michael, the governor says this is simply a business decision. Do you buy that?
No, and there's so much here, Andy, that we've got to talk about. First and foremost is St. Louis and the region is 40% of the income that comes to the state of the Missouri. We're in a death spiral inside the city of St. Louis. What is the governor and the Republicans in Jefferson City's answer? It's to run. It's to flee to the county. It's to hide. That's not fixing the cancer that we have going on in the city. Now, they may have a problem with the political leadership in the city of St. Louis, who show incompetence and unwillingness to lead. You're the governor. You lead on this. You don't abandon these buildings. That building, the Wainwright Building, happens to be one of the most historic buildings in the entire world. And the state of Missouri is going to fire sale it? Then you compound it with the mayor and the Chamber of Commerce had no idea this was going to go on. This was going on. Let's not forget, it was just a couple of weeks ago, they were telling the Wall Street Journal, this city's flourishing. You don't know what's happening. We've got our finger on the pulse. And then you stand up and say, this is going on? This spiral is being compounded by Jefferson City, and what needs to be understood by this state and this region is it's going to kill all of us if we don't deal with it. I don't know how much more urgent we can be than having this conversation every week.
The mayor's chief of staff says the state should be part of solving the problems. Isn't he right?
Sure, but you're going to sell these buildings. I mean, you got to protect these bureaucrats that work late into the night. Well, never mind. They don't work late into the night. But I understand the business concept of this. They're moving the offices out to where people are. Nobody lives in the city. And the state's got to make prudent fiscal decisions, and this is a prudent fiscal decision that the governor and the executive branch are making, and I'm not as exercised about it as Michael.
Governor Parson has slashed more than $1 billion from the state budget. He vetoed 170 spending items approved by the state legislature. The cuts include $150 million from the $700 million plan to add lanes to Interstate 44 and $8 million for a new law enforcement training center in O'Fallon, Missouri. The cuts come as the state enjoys record surpluses, billions of dollars, John. Why should the governor sit on all that money?
Because
spending it to help people.
Because the principle of if you have it, spend it is the wrong principle for government. If it's not necessary spending, don't spend it. I applaud the governor here. You should all, Calvin Coolidge, my favorite president, every single day of his administration, they found something in the federal budget to cut, and they balanced the budget, and they paid off the U.S. national debt during that administration. We should always be about the business of cutting government spending. I applaud this.
What do you think? I mean, they got a surplus of $4, $5, $6 billion.
Yeah, this is a popular phrase inside the Republican Party. We're going to cut fat, waste, and abuse. Look at those things. Those were important things. One of the things they cut was $15 million to set up an engineering department at UMSL so that we could actually train people here to go get some of these high-priced jobs that we have in the region. The governor whacked those. This is such short-sighted thought, and it's no longer cutting, we're getting rid of this waste and abuse. It's the things that make commerce happen in the state of Missouri that this legislature is going out and taking an axe to.
For 30 years, UMSL's had a partnership with Washington University on engineering. This would have been a duplicative program. It's a perfect example of why things need to get cut.
St. Louis Mayor Tishaura Jones stands by her political ally, endorsing Congresswoman Cori Bush in one of the most watched primary races across the United States. Things have changed greatly since Congresswoman Cori Bush, then City Treasurer Tishaura Jones, and then Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner together heralded a new day in city leadership after they won election 4 years ago. Gardner has since resigned amid scandal and poor performance. Jones has since become mayor, and Bush is now in danger of being voted out of office after just 2 terms, with another progressive Democrat, St. Louis County Prosecutor Wesley Bell, trying to win her seat. Given the state of things in St. Louis, what's the impact of this endorsement, Michael?
Well, it makes some ties for Cori Bush to St. Louis, the fact that the mayor is endorsing her, because Cori Bush is not seen in the district. Most people haven't even met her or seen her. I would be one of those people who's never met the Congresswoman. I don't know if the endorsement helps or hurts. What I take away from there is, in memory of those three folks, Kim Gardner going out in disgrace, Cori Bush fighting for her political life against Wesley Bell, and potentially Tishaura Jones. This race could not only be foretelling for what's going to happen to progressives in Washington, D.C., but maybe even potentially inside the city of St. Louis. And Tishaura is all in with Cori. We'll see how it comes out.
Might this be one of those endorsements that actually help the other candidate?
Could. I kind of liken this to AOC endorsing Jamal Bowman in New York right at the end. It didn't get him anywhere. I mean, he had those votes. Cori Bush has those votes. I don't know that this does anything to expand her electorate. And Cori Bush needs to be reaching out beyond the progressive base because she might be in real trouble here.
Up next, our quote of the week on the issue of presidential immunity for Donald Trump. And there are more and more leaks in the Democrats' dam around President Biden's reelection campaign. Is that dam about to break?